For the second time in just 1 month, President Joe Biden and the Biden administration decided to bypass that pesky Congress that they often have to deal with in order to send more arms to Israel worth about $150 million. Now, the sale of $147.5 million in equipment such as fuses, chargers, and primers is intended to help the functionality of the US allies' previous purchase of nearly 14,000 rounds of 155 millimeter shells in early December. To push that sale through, though, what the State Department did is last Friday, they said that they invoked an emergency provision that avoids a congressional review process, which is generally required for arms sales to other nations. That provision specifically states that the president has legal authority to bypass Congress's approval if an emergency exists, which requires the sale to be made immediately in the national security interests of the United States. That last part. In the national security interests of the United States. How exactly is bombing the crap out of the Gaza Strip in the national security interests of the United States? Of course it's not. But nonetheless, the State Department, used the same provision in early December to facilitate a $106 million government sale of nearly 1,400 rounds of tank ammunition to Israel. The Department of Defense said in a statement on Friday that Secretary of State Antony Blinken, an unelected official, had provided detailed justification to Congress that an emergency exists that requires the immediate sale to Israel. He said that the United States is committed to the security of Israel and it is vital to US national interest to assist Israel to develop and maintain a strong and ready self-defense capability. This proposed sale is consistent with those objectives. It is incumbent upon all countries to employ munitions consistent with international humanitarian law, which is an absolute joke considering the war crimes that the IDF has committed. Now, the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, which is part of the Pentagon, notified Congress of the sale of these weapons on Friday to Congress after Antony Blinken approved it. Something that, again, Congress should have done. Josh Paul, who's the former official in the State Department who resigned in the beginning of this war over the sale of arms to Israel, had some strong words about this. He argued that the sale would enable Israel to continue operations that have led to Palestinian civilian deaths. This makes a complete mockery of the repeated endorsement by Secretary Blinken of the rules-based international order as the Biden administration continues to rush munitions, unguided munitions, in this instance, to Israel during the Gaza conflict. This is shameful, craven, and should frankly turn the stomach of any decent human being. By the arms provided in today's arms transfer, more children will die. And some members of Congress are speaking out against this, including more conservative members of Congress. We'll get to them in a moment. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Okay, two things here. One is on the merits, the idea that Israel is in desperate emergency need for more self-defense is absurd. Does anyone really believe that? Like, they're dropping 2,000-pound bombs. They've dropped 29,000 bombs in a place the size of Las Vegas. It looks like they have plenty of military capability to kill massive numbers of Palestinian civilians, let alone the tiny, tiny fraction of Hamas fighters that they have killed. So this is an emergency for America that Israel hasn't been able to kill more innocent Palestinian civilians. National emergency. If you say that with a straight face, you're so deeply biased that you can't see straight, or you work in Washington, you get paid by defense contractors, okay? So there is no other explanation for that absurd claim. So now the second part of it, the juxtaposition. When we ask for higher wages or paid family leave or lower drug prices or a child tax credit, anything for the American people, you know what the answer always is? How are you gonna pay for that? There's no money for it, okay? No way, no way, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. The filibuster, the parliamentarian, I got this excuse, I got that. I got a million excuses why I can't help the average American, the average American citizen. Never any help for them. But when it comes to war, we got plenty of money. What's the only thing that's passed in this gridlock Congress? A giant defense budget, even though the Pentagon can't pass an audit. They don't know where half the money goes. They're like, but all of a sudden, plenty of money for war. Because the defense contractors got to get stinking rich off your taxes. But your kids, no way we're gonna help your kids. So now all of a sudden, Israel needs more money for war. It turns out there's everything we could do. It's so easy. You don't need Congress. You have filibuster parliamentarians. No, just give it to them. It's Israel and it's war. Give it to them, give it to them, give it to them.
To be fair,
so
Jay,
we don't have any money for Americans, but we have money for war in Israel.
To be fair,
riddle me that.
I mean, look, in Israel, I mean, they've deemed this an emergency. This is a crisis, it's an emergency.
I see, okay.
There's no emergency, there's no crisis currently taking place here in the United States. We've had an ongoing, never-ending housing crisis. We've got tens of thousands of Americans living on the streets as a result of that. We have parents who don't know what to do with their children when they want to go to work because childcare is astronomical in the country right now. You have wages that have gone up just a little bit since the 1970s, but still haven't kept up with inflation because inflation skyrocketed under the Biden administration. So any type of help to the American people, no, we can't do it. There's all sorts of excuses up and down. Oh, well, there's gridlock in Congress, there's the parliamentarian, there's a legislative filibuster in the Senate. But when it comes to getting weapons to Israel, they don't have to worry about Congress. They can bypass Congress. And by the way, the same thing happens when it comes to raising the debt ceiling, right? They'll just do away with the legislative filibuster to raise the debt ceiling. That's the only time Congress is able to operate without worrying about these arbitrary rules that could easily be done away with. And this is a good example of how easily those arbitrary rules can be done away with if there's a will to carry out the proposal, in this case, weapons to Israel.
So I got
it's crazy.
I think there was an emergency not only in Palestine, but in East Palestine here in America, in Ohio,
Can't be bothered with that.
So
the derailed train, the environmental catastrophe that resulted from that, can't be bothered with it.
Sorry, there's nothing we can do. There's not the parliamentarian, the filibuster. There's nothing we can do. Nothing we could do.
Biden couldn't even be bothered to visit that community.
Yeah. So, but I get, what's also east of Palestine is Israel. So I got a great suggestion for East Palestine. Rename it to Israel, Ohio, and you'll get all the funding you want. You start a war with a local county, nearby county, or attack Pennsylvania. Oh my God! Well, you have a right to defend yourself, East Palestine. You don't have a right to defend yourself from malicious corporations that almost literally set off a bomb in your community and poisoned your kids. You don't have any right to self-defense on that. But if you rename yourself Israel and attack Pittsburgh, then we'll say you have a right to defend yourself and we'll send you all the money you need. So, I mean, look, this is absurdities, but this is what's happening in America. And if Israel asked right after October 7th and Israel was a poor country, and my God, we got to go help those poor folks defend themselves, okay, that makes sense, right? But this isn't October 8th. We've now seen 3 months of death and destruction, very, very well financed by Israel, now having killed 20 times the number of people that Hamas did. And we're supposed to pretend that they're poor and that they can't defend themselves and that we have no money for Americans, but we have plenty of money for Israel. That's what we're all supposed to pretend so we don't get called anti-Semitic?
That's right.
Sorry, no deal.
And we're supposed to also pretend that we're totally fine with our system of checks and balances being thrown out the window entirely when it has to do with the best interests of another country. By the way, Tim Kaine, a Democratic senator who leans more conservative, to be quite frank with you, was not okay with what the Biden administration did here. Typically, you wouldn't really hear a peep from Tim Kaine on this issue, but here's what he posted on social media. Why should the administration bypass Congress on arms sales to any nation? Bypassing Congress equals keeping the American public in the dark.
That is shocking.
That is a shocking statement. I didn't expect that from Tim Kaine, but I would really appreciate more members of Congress speaking out against this power grab here by the Biden administration.
So I'll tell you something else that's shocking, and I want to do 2 things about it, which is 6 of the most conservative Democrats in the House also sent a letter a couple of weeks ago, including Spanberger and Moulton. These are very conservative Democrats, worked in the military and the CIA before. Those 2, let alone the other 6. They sent a letter to Biden saying, you got to stop Israel from killing more civilians. And so great credit to them for doing that, even though we disagree with them on other issues in terms of domestic policy. I'll always give credit where credit is due, including to Tim Kaine here. But it's my job to be honest with you guys. What that tells me is, now these are people that have always said green light for whatever Israel wants to do, right? They must have awful polling numbers back home in their districts and in their states, showing if you keep going like this, you're gonna lose your power here, because young people especially, including Jewish Americans, young people hate what the administration is doing.
Totally. I mean, upward of 70% of Americans, and obviously that's gonna include a sizable portion of conservative voters as well, want a ceasefire. They see what's happening and they can tell that it is wrong. They want a ceasefire. So there is this disconnect between what the United States government is carrying out in the arming of the IDF and the support and cover for the Israeli government, and how Americans are actually feeling about this war.
Yeah, and I give you that as context so you know the full story, but that doesn't mean you should take credit away from Tim Kaine, Spanberger, and Moulton. They've come to the correct position, so we're very happy to have them. Great, wonderful. President Biden, you should listen to even conservative members of your own party saying, you've gone too far. This is crazy. We keep telling Americans we don't have any money. Then the minute Israel's killing civilians nonstop, you magically find money and circumvent Congress. They're absolutely right, so credit to them.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.